There are fewer than 30 men in the world qualified to drive Formula One. A mere half dozen, perhaps, to win. At this moment, I'm inclined to think you're not one of them.
No, you want to. Keep up the good work, and there you have it. There you go. Welcome to F1Weekly.com. My name is Clark Rogers. I'm the host of the program. I'll be joined by Nasir Hamid, my co-host. This is podcast number 1041, April 29th, 2024. Nasir.
Thank you, sir. I say Sunday, time to play Miami Beach Rumba and the Grand Prix. The cage is rattling at Red Bull. McLaren may master the moment. They are on a charge. We shall explain gladly. Back to you, sir.
Thank you, Nasir. On today's program, Fernando says sensitive Lance Stroll is very important to Aston Martin's championship aspirations. Hulkenberg sees a podium in his future. LCH's former physio seen in Alabama IndyCar race with Marcus Ericsson. And all eyes are on Logan Sargent. Will he crash or will he splash in the fake marina? And just a reminder, this week's interview, part 3 of the Howden Ganley interview, or almost like a serial has been going on for so long, but continue to enjoy that. And I do have to remind everyone that yes, we do need your contributions. Keep this program up on the servers. So please click on the Support F1 Weekly tab. You know you want to. And I also want to mention now, I am beginning, the first one was last week's podcast, posting the show on patreon.com. There you have it, Nas. I know there's been a lot of excitement at IndyCar with all the Penske crap, but sort of a dull weekend. How are you?
Well, I'm doing very good, sir. Thank you. I am getting ready to drive south towards Miami on Wednesday, and I'll be there all at the track all Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So trying to do a lot of preparation and trying to talk to people, but it's a little too late in the game, but we will see what we can salvage there. But at least I'll be in the arena, so I'm very happy about it. And my thanks once again to Senor Paul Velasco of Grand Prix 247. But sir, what a season we are having. Full rock the boat. No love and devotion. We are not even halfway through the calendar year, let alone halfway through the season, which is in August, that we have one Formula One tsunami after another. Open checkbook has been available to Adrian Newey for a few years now from more than one interested team, but the news that he will leave Red Bull, first reported by Mr. maybe I should say Herr Michael Schmidt of Auto Motor und Sport of Germany, has gone viral. What say you on this situation, sir?
Well, I mean, it's going to be very complicated, folks. Just like in the high-tech industry, people of that kind of engineering talent sign contracts. You can't just go from AMD to Apple and then go switch over to Intel when you want to. You know, he's going to have to go on gardening leave. It could last until 2027 or 28. Whatever happens, it'll be interesting. Of course, everybody expects him to be picked up by Ferrari. But hey, I think it'd be a bigger challenge if we saw him go to Andretti to give him legitimacy, or Haas, just for fun.
Well said. Well, what the facts are and what the truth is, only Adrian Newey knows best. As we have seen so many times in Formula One before, where there is smoke, there is fire. This reporter, Michael Schmidt, I first met him in the early 1990s at the Long Beach IndyCar race. And we chat when we meet at the races, which obviously has not happened in the past few years. He's very well known, well respected, and normally comes up with reliable information. And so we have to see how this thing pans out. Now, Adrian Newey has been around the block very successfully for many, many years. Apart from Red Bull, he has designed championship-winning cars for McLaren and Williams. In fact, going back to the 1990 Grand Prix at Paul Ricard, the beautiful Leighton House car, which led the French Grand Prix in the hands of Ivan Capelli, was also designed by Newey. And I still remember vividly that car leading and Alain Prost chasing him down and passing him. Going further back, Newey was engineered in 1984 on Bobby Rahal's IndyCar program. And if you recall, when Bobby Rahal was in charge of Jaguar for a short time, he almost signed Adrian Newey to join Jaguar, but then Ron kept him at McLaren. Speculation as to where Newey will go is flying every which way, including high seas. He is supposed to receive his multi-million-dollar yacht soon, and some are suggesting he may do a Ross Brawn and go sailing around the world. Whether it's in retirement or in between, only time will tell. Some reports suggest he will retire to the home he recently bought in South Africa, and in that case he may enjoy sands of Kalahari more than the sands of Abu Dhabi. I think Adrian still has a lot to contribute to the world of Formula One, and I personally think once the departure is agreed upon from Red Bull and gardening leave has been served, we will see him at one of the top 3 deep-pocketed teams. Now, top of the list would be, of course, Ferrari, especially when you take into account Newey expressing a regret that so far he has not worked with Lewis Hamilton. So here is an opportunity in the community in Maranello. Ferrari, Lewis Hamilton, and Adrian Newey. What a lethal combination that will be. Mercedes also have very deep pockets. Now this is very interesting. I saw this today. It is reported they are willing to offer Max 150 million euros per year contract, and there are several reports suggesting that Max and his people, which would be his manager and also his papa, Jos the boss, will have a meeting with Toto and the Mercedes people, which includes, by the way, a gentleman by the name of Ola Kalenius. He is the head of the Daimler-Benz Corporation. I think it's now called just Daimler, which would be he is Toto's boss, also in charge of the Mercedes car company and the Brixworth engine program in England. So things are getting very exciting, and let's see how it works out. If Mercedes can do that and pay this kind of money to a driver, I am sure they can put a blank check in front of Adrian Newey also. Then there is this school of thought, most likely with the campus in Oviedo and San Jose, California, not Costa Rica, which is suggesting that Alonso signed with Aston Martin because he knew who was coming to dinner. Now, with his favorite engine manufacturer and Adrian Newey, Alonso may get that third world championship one fine day. What say you? Do you think Alonso and Adrian will be working together in a year or two?
Well, that is the big rumor, and it's very exciting. There it is, an opportunity for the community. But the problem at Ferrari, you can't forget Chef Boyardee. So it's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens. But wherever he lands, it'll be intriguing, to say the least. I mean, if it's not Fernando, it's Lewis Hamilton. So, my goodness, I don't know. We don't know right now how Alonso is going to, how LCH is going to do at Ferrari. We know what Fernando's doing at Aston Martin. Apparently, Fernando, he is their knight in shining armor who's going to take him to the promised land.
Well, one thing I will say about Ferrari, after the passing of Enzo, when people of the caliber of Adrian Newey and Lewis Hamilton come to the program, they will have a direct link to, John Elkann, the guy who's bringing them here, the head of heads at Scuderia Ferrari. They're not going to be told, oh, Luigi Gintelli is your supervisor, you report to him. So this kind of people will demand, I don't want to say perfection, but performance at any cost. So things will change, that's for sure. One thing I'm pretty sure of is, if Adrian Newey leaves Red Bull, I think Max will not complete his contract at Red Bull, which really is a long-term contract. because losing Honda engine is a big blow, and if they lose Adrian also, then they may be headed to the black hole of Milton Keynes, if not Calcutta. When they say they, meaning Red Bull Racing Team. So that's my, when I'm at the Miami race, I am sure in the media and in the paddock area, Adrian Newey would be a hot topic, and I know quite a few media people, senior people. I will try to pick as many brains as possible and see what the general consensus is on his final destination in Formula One. And so it's very, very exciting, and I think it will be pretty disappointing for Formula One fans, myself included, if he just retires and go on the Rod Stewart program, I Am Sailing. Would you like to see him stay in motor racing or retire?
I think he is going to stay. I mean, the money is going to be offered. It's going to be his last hurrah. One more for the Gipper. So I see that coming. Don't forget, he's 65 years old. He's no young whippersnapper. It's going to be exciting. I'm telling you, Fernando, that third championship, I could see him, Fernando, and Hulkenberg on the podium.
That's beautiful. Okay, sir, speaking of Mercedes, next item is mayhem at Mercedes and my favorite, tit for tat. Mercedes' advertising slogan here in the United States, I don't know if they use the same thing in Europe also, is engineered like no other car. And Lewis Hamilton and George Russell have been experiencing that since the dawn of the 2022 season. The lack of pace in the car has increased the lack of lovey-dovey between the driver and his soon-to-be ex-biggest supporter. Now, German website Motorsports Magazine has an interesting story on this. Regarding constant moaning from machismo of Stephen H., Toto has his own take on it after the recent TikTok Grand Prix, saying, and I quote, "We definitely put the car wrong. It was also something where Lewis gave a direction of development which was such that the car did not drive around the corner." End quote. I say silver arrows have become silver boomerangs. Love came to town in 2013. Now the thrill and wins are gone. Let's hope Lewis and Toto say arrivederci with a handshake, not sitting on a private plane on a tarmac and refusing to come out for a welcome departure. Who could that be? Now, Mr. Rogers, here is an idea for LCH for some departing humor. Perhaps on the final lap of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix this year, he can get on the team radio and say, "Toto, it's called a driver change." Would you like to see something like that happen? Like a final zinger of the day?
We could, but everybody is so PC now. I mean, I'm still in amazement how we don't have grid girls anymore. It's like women don't exist. I find it bewildering, but I'm getting old and I understand. I'm still listening to Glenn Miller every day, but it's tough. But no, there's not going to be any zingers. Everybody's going to be very polite. They'll be kissing on the left and right cheek.
Oh, thanks for clarifying that. Very important. Okay, sir, but wait, there's more tit for tat on track. Now, this is beautiful. Given the wonderful performance of Alpine team so far this season, slings and arrows are being launched by new sheriff in town, Monsieur Bruno Famin. He said, and I quote, "The current situation is the result of the previous management. We want to get back to fighting for the podium and the victory as quickly as possible." End quote. Now, man from Detroit, Mr. Otmar Safnauer, who also has the experience of passing through the team's revolving door, had this to say, and I quote this gentleman as saying, "In F1 we work on the current season's car until the summer break. Then the latest package of development arrives for the Singapore, which takes place in September. With restrictions on the use of the wind tunnel and CFD, you inevitably focus on the car you are racing. After the summer break, so after August, we start working on the following year's car, perhaps inserting parts of the future car on the one that races to draw the first evaluation. That's what we used to do at Alpine. So, Permain and I were sent away in July. Fry had resigned at that time. You draw your own conclusions from Famin's words." End quote. What are the conclusions you are driving, sir?
I'm not sure. There's a lot of bitterness in Otmar's tone. But Alpine is having some issues. We know that. I think they're all administrative. They have good drivers. They'll get through this. I even think the package might not be that bad if they could just get their act together. So let's hope for peace in the community.
Well, the package may not be bad, but it's definitely nowhere near good. Both their drivers have not scored any points, so that's very disturbing for a works team.
I concur. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, it's one of my favorite teams, Renault, in short. But ever since Carlos Ghosn and the escape, things have just gone downhill.
Okay, sir. Good news for employment. Now hiring at Haas F1. There is an open seat at the American-owned team for 2025. Nico Hülkenberg is saying auf Wiedersehen at the end of the season and doing a baby comeback at Sauber. He drove for this team previously, and in 2026 it will be taken over completely by a company with 4 rings, Audi. And since Audi is not running a ringling circus, I don't think they will be interested in Daniel Ricciardo or Mick Schumacher. The Hulk will be reunited with team principal Andreas Seidel. Both were at Porsche when Nico won the Le Mans 24-hour race in his first attempt, which was definitely very, very impressive. I think this is a smart decision based on Nico's experience and junior career pedigree, which is as impressive as Leclerc, Russell and Hamilton. Now the question is, who will be his teammate? The name mentioned most at Audi is Carlos Sainz Jr. Now Carlito and Nico were teammates at Renault, and the German driver had the upper hand at that time. The Mini Machismo was given a deadline by Audi to sign. Apparently that deadline has been extended. I guess drivers are waiting to see what Max will do. I do not see Max leaving a championship-winning package before the end of the 2025 season. Sainz Jr. is the best option available among race-winning drivers, and Audi can use Bottas as a reliable backup. Now, obviously, one of the drivers, Chinese Guan Yu Zhou and Valtteri Bottas, will have to go. Who do you think will go?
Well, if they go by haircuts, Bottas is gone. It's a tough one. I don't know. I think Bottas might be going to Williams. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on. I am not quite sure what is really going on.
And there is also a lot of talk, or chatter on the interweb that Miami may be the final race from your favorite Logan Sargent. And Logan Sargent is just from up the road in Boca Raton. And he really will have to do something like out-qualify Albon. But if he's going to have another crash or spin, then I think the issues will be done. And you know what is really not going good for him is that Ferrari is putting this kid, Kimi Antonelli, on a fast track. He just completed 2 days of testing in a year or 2-year-old Formula One car at Imola. So they have very serious Toto has very serious intention of bringing this kid to Formula One. Whether he will come in Mercedes team, mothership, or he plays him with his buddy James Vowles in place of Sargent, time will tell. But how do you read this situation for Sargent?
Yeah, it's over because he's going to crash. I guarantee it. Money is on it. I bet $20, Nasir, that he crashes in Miami. I mean, he's become Logan Maldonado, Sargent.
Yeah, if you have reached that lofty standards, then it's very hard to come down to reality. So then I think it will be. But I just cannot see this guy being rolled into a Formula One car package next year, unfortunately.
No, but he will be in that exclusive club with Latifi where they could hang out at the country club. No, Max. It's all about what's happening behind Max. This is Formula behind Max, pretty much. But it could be very exciting. I mean, look what Fernando's doing. It's the start. Ain't how many red flags, tires. But Max he'll be 20 seconds ahead of everybody. And don't forget, it's a sprint weekend as well. I'll be confused, but I'll figure it all out. In the meantime, I'm thirsty, you're thirsty. Why don't we take a quick break? And we'll be back after these brief messages. And now, here's Howden Ganley again.
Anyway, I think what they did in the end, that they took a bunch of people that they knew were still running. They decided on who was the most famous one, maybe if they'd raced there in Can-Am or something. They made themselves up what they thought was a good-looking list. They knew where everyone had started, and then they made a lap chart that joined it all up. But I know my chart, the official chart, is complete nonsense.
Did Peter Reston say anything about the result?
No.
To you, that is?
No. Judy always said she didn't think Peter really believed he won the race. But history says he did, and that's the end of it.
Yeah. Now, how did you find Frank Williams as a person?
Frank, I'd known Frank since I was a mechanic on the Germany Formula Junior team, and Frank used to go around with Jonathan Williams, and I thought he was the only bloke who had less money than I had, and I had none. Then eventually Frank started wheeling and dealing, and so anyway, I'd known him all this time, and I rented some premises from him when I had my gearbox business. When I went to drive for him, I thought he'd finally cracked it, and he was off and away as a team owner. But unfortunately, there wasn't enough money. I think Frank and I kind of drifted apart, having been quite good friends, and I used to go around to his house for dinner and stuff like that. Pretty rarely, I had a 2-year contract with him, but at the end of the year, we sort of agreed that things weren't working too well. I think, really, that I didn't play it right, and Frank was being misled by somebody else.
Now, is it true, and I read this, so I have to ask you, that you lost the Williams drive for 74 as Marlboro wanted Arturo Mazzario in the car?
Well, they wanted an Italian driver in the second car, and when we left Watkins Glen, in theory, it was going to be Clay Regazzoni. Of course, Clay, as I knew, I don't think Frank knew at that point, because Frank was telling me, I think I can get Regazzoni. And I'd say, great, I wanted a full-time teammate like that, because he'd had Jackie X at the Glen. He was always saying to me, I'm going to get Jackie X. Yeah, great. Well, the better other driver you get, the better it is for me. So, anyway, I knew that Clay was going to Ferrari, but I don't think for 74. And Mazzario was getting kicked out of Ferrari. And interesting, those two had a terrific battle at Watkins Glen that I could have got caught up in. They were banging wheels and cutting across curbs, and it was a bit of needle, obviously, between the two of them. Anyway, so it was going to be Mazzario in the second car. Because I had a contract with Frank. Then, I don't know, they decided to do the rent-a-racer thing for the second car. Maybe there wasn't enough money, I don't know. It didn't matter to me because I was gone.
You mentioned things did not work out, and we saw that happen not just with Frank, with other teams, and this guy Zanardi had a contract with Williams, things didn't work out. What really happened, apart from a money situation, what really goes on in a team between a driver and a team, that even if you have a 2 or a 3-year contract, that things don't work out? What is the missing link there?
I think in the case between Frank and I, there was a third party involved.
Can we get a name on this third party?
No, we can't.
Okay.
But, people have their own axes to grind, don't they?
Sure.
And it's very easy if your car's not going fast enough, well, it's the driver's fault, isn't it? It's never the team, as it were, in whatever element you're looking there. My defence, I suppose, was once we got the new cars, well, in some cases, very good co-drivers came along, and how many of them out-qualified me? Pescarola one time. X didn't, Schenken didn't, McRae didn't, and on like that. So, why am I the scapegoat for the car not going fast enough? I thought I knew how to improve the car immeasurably, but I was a bit of a voice in the wilderness. No, you're just not driving it fast enough. Well, okay. What about these other guys then? Well, never mind them. So you get into that, and then a relationship sours. But to this day, I do not blame Frank at all.
It's the third party.
The third party.
Okay. Now, you were driving for the Japanese Maki team when you had your serious leg injuries at German Grand Prix practice. Looking back, do you think it was a mistake to go with an unproven team in the top echelon of motor racing?
Well, in hindsight, it was a bad mistake. At the time, you see, I was driving for March, but their sponsorship hadn't materialised, except that Brambilla was standing there with his Beta Tools money. And so here I am, I have no sponsorship, I'm getting paid, and there's a guy who's pretty quick standing there with a pile of money. Well, I understood that Max and Robin would be forced could be forced eventually to say, oh, I'm sorry, but, Then these guys, these Japanese people come along and they say to me, we've got 4 cars and 7 engines and 2 transporters and 55 mechanics, all the rest of it, and we'll pay you a lot of money. Would you like to drive for us? And I say, yes, that's very nice. And who's the number 2 driver? No, number 2, just all you. Well, what am I going to do? Right? It was the old thing, if it sounds too good to be true, then it is. And it was. But having said that, having done a lot of testing and not got anywhere, I finally had a big shout up, and they did modify the car considerably before Brands. Unfortunately, they turned up a day too late. But I was thinking, this thing's starting to work now, and I was quite encouraged, and I was looking forward to Nürburgring. But of course, then when the suspension broke, that was the end of that.
I think that a racing driver's mentality is like a fighter pilot, that he's not going to get shot down, he's not going to have the accident. But when something like that happens to a driver, like it happened with you, do you just accept it, that, hey, it has happened to me now, or how did you cope with it?
Yeah, it's a fact of life. When I had the accident, I didn't realise how bad it was, and I thought I just had this, first off, complete numbness in my below my knees, and then the pain, and I thought, it'll wear off after a while. And I've got to be, there's a GPDA meeting after practice, and I hope I can still make it. And then, of course, when they x-rayed it, big problem here. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a fact of life, and I then didn't race for many months. In fact, my first proper race back was in May, the following May. The Grand Prix was in August. Following May, I went back driving the Mirage for Jello with Tim Schenken. I remember driving past the scene of the accident, first lap, and I looked at it, put it out of my mind, never thought about it again.
Looking back on your Formula One days, what do you cherish most, what memories, and what were some of the high points? The highs are very high in motor racing, the lows are very low. So give us a rundown of a few of the things you think were really great and things that were not so great.
Yeah, there's usually not so great, so outweigh the greats. Well, just getting into Formula One for a start, because that was my schoolboy dream, to get to Formula One, and I did. And then probably the first time I led a Grand Prix ever at Monza, although it's not unfortunately recorded officially because the lead changed all around the circuit. So 2 or 3 times I was leading out of Lesmo too, but by the time you get to the start-finish line, I'm not in the lead, so it's never recorded in the history as having led a Grand Prix. But anyway, yeah, I mean, about a run in the front bunch. Probably another highlight that nobody knows about, except me and a couple of others, is that at the British Grand Prix in 71, I had a puncture. That was a good race for me, and I stopped, and then I had to set off and try and catch up. And during that, unfortunately, didn't catch up enough to get in the points. I think I was 7th or 8th. But I made the second fastest lap of the race, just fractionally behind Jackie Stewart, who made the fastest lap. So I think, and I was in the older car. So things like that are little highlights. The Canadian Grand Prix could be a highlight. The Downs, the accident, clearly, with the Mackie. A few other things. Well, the Williams and the fuel system not working properly at Monza was disappointing, because I really loved the track. And when the engine ran, it was looking pretty good, but then didn't run clean for a whole lap. So things like that are really disappointing.
Your favorite track? You have raced in South America also, basically all over the world. Your favorite tracks?
Well, I have a top 3. I've always had a top 3, and number 1 just is old Nürburgring. Just fantastic. It was very kind to me, and it was cruel to me, and I won the Eiffel Pokal ran in there in the BRM, and I did score points there in 72 in the BRM, and then, of course, had that huge accident in the Williams when the brake caliper fell off in 73, and then the Mackie accident in 74. So, and then I set a new 2-litre lap record there in 72. So it has its upsides, but it's just the most fantastic track. The next best for me is Spa, because it was so fast, and that Burnenville, and then being able to do the Master Kink flat and stuff like that, I thought that was fabulous. I recognise it was kind of stupidly dangerous, but because you're immortal at that age. And then Monaco, because it rewards accuracy. If you are prepared to drive the car around there as though there are no Armco barriers, or at least the edge of the road is just a curb like on a normal track, then you'll get a great reward from it. So I think that has to be. And of course, there is the atmosphere at Monaco. It's an unusual track, and there's history as well. Look at the history of the place.
Do you have a list of bottom 3 tracks also, or places that you did not enjoy going to?
I never wanted to go to have an attitude that I didn't enjoy them. Think, this is dead boring, or it's just not a nice track. Yeah, what would I think was a track I really didn't enjoy? Well, I didn't think much of the short circuit at Buenos Aires, the Argentine Grand Prix 72. They ran on the short one. Later on, when the big circuit, we're at 74 with March, so I thought that was much different. That one in Belgium, Nivelles.
Yeah.
Nivelles, that was, it was a shame. I mean, it spent a lot of money building a track, but it just wasn't much to it, really. It was not very much fun. What would be the next worst one? I'm trying to think. No, I can't really. Oh, no, Zolder was good. I quite liked Zolder. It was a little bit short, but I thought they slightly ruined it when they put the chicane in, because it used to be, in Formula 5000 and Formula 2.
How about Jarama and Montjuic Park?
Oh, Montjuic was fantastic. Jarama was not terribly exciting.
You mentioned the 1972 Argentine Grand Prix. The man who started his career there in 1972 was on pole position. Yes. Carlos Reutemann, another of my favorites. Did you get to know him?
Well, I had known Carlos a little bit from when he was doing Formula 2, because he, it was the YPF team, and they came and rented a workshop from me that they operated out of.
Small world.
And so I got to know Carlos then when he was hanging around, and then I used to talk to him a bit when he came to Formula 1. I wouldn't ever say I was a pretty good friend of his, but, I knew him enough.
Alan Jones sure has some issues with him. I asked him, they had this problem where Carlos would not slow down, so I asked Alan Jones, how are things with him? He said, everything is okay, press blew it up, but I won't have lunch with him. Will you have lunch with Lole?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. You are now vice president and on the board of BRDC, owner of Silverstone. What do you have to say about Bernie's bullying about taking the Grand Prix from Silverstone or from Britain, which will be, pathetic?
Well, just to correct that, yes, I was a director of the BRDC for 9 years, and you're time barred after that. You can't do more than 9 years at one go. And after then I was a director of Silverstone Circuits, and I was a director of Silverstone Estates, which are the two principal subsidiary companies of the BRDC. And I was the club secretary for a time, but then when my wife got ill, I had to resign from that position. And I'm delighted and so grateful that they made me a vice president, which is a great honour. Bernie and the Grand Prix, will he ever take it away? I don't know.
Well, he has done a lot for motor racing. Has Bernie been good for Formula 1 lately?
Well, Bernie, when he arrived, when he brought the Brabham team, Formula 1 was a bit of a shambles, wasn't it? There were championship races and there were non-championship races, and practice might start at 10 in the morning, but it might start at 11, and it'll start again at 2 o'clock, but maybe it won't because the officials are not back from lunch. Maybe it'll start at 3 o'clock, and then it would go on late, and then the poor old mechanics have got to work through the night. So Bernie brought order to some chaos, and he stopped the business with teams playing each other off against the organisers to get more start money. So, Ferrari got more money and BRM perhaps got more money than some of the others. So Bernie tidied the whole thing up. So in that way, he's been really good for Formula 1. And he made it the show it is, because it didn't have much television back then, when he arrived, when I was in it. So, you can't criticise what Bernie's done in that respect. Whether he's done the right things in more recent years, I don't know. Time will tell. At the time that he arrived, perhaps we didn't realise how he was going to tidy it up, and you look back now and say, he did clean it all up.
Your thoughts on the Spygate and the $100 million fine on McLaren, and as a former mechanic, driver, constructor, how much cheating and spying goes on in motor racing? And I'm sure this is not a 21st century thing.
No, I think it's always been there. And when I was I've had access to other cars. When I was doing Formula 1, I've had access to other cars. You could go along and measure the wheelbase and the airbox opening size and the wing height and all the rest of it. So, people have always done it. I regarded when I got into the race car business myself, when I had Tiger racing cars, I just recognised it was a hazard of the business. And I know that dimensions and things of my cars were pinched by other people, but so what? Move on. I don't know really how this McLaren thing got blown up, and got to be careful what you say these days. Someone give you a slap. It's most odd that Renault supposedly weren't guilty or that didn't warrant a fine, and McLaren's had 100 million. Seems a huge differential, doesn't there?
Now, last year, Lewis Hamilton had a 17-point lead in the championship with 2 races remaining. Now, as a former driver, who do you blame for that Shanghai surprise that he was left out on the shredded tires, the team or the driver?
I honestly don't know enough about that, but the driver is the one who really knows what his tyres look like, because he can see them. Mainly the team can see them a bit as they come by. And I can't apportion blame, but you would have to wonder why the team didn't call him in. If they thought, well, he reckons he can drive around there in the tyres in that state, maybe he's wrong and we should call him in. But it goes deeper than that to me, and I'm not just saying this about Hamilton, I would say it about anybody, that you have to recognise that any circuit that's been wet gets a dry line quite quickly, because there are 22 cars going round and round and round on the same, more or less, the same line. But 22 cars are not coming down the pit lane every lap. So, of course, the pit lane is going to be much, much wetter, because it's maybe had one visit per car in X number of laps. So it doesn't get a dry line. And so I think you've got to say to yourself, the pit lane is going to be slippery. I always thought they were in that situation. So you be careful.
Alonso, man who beat Schumacher 2 years in a row, where did he go wrong in handling a fast teammate and his relationship with his team manager, Ron Dennis?
Where did he go wrong? Well, I think if you have to recognise that you're going to get a teammate every so often who's going to be quicker than you. But there's no point taking it out on the team manager. Look to yourself.
Now, Lewis Hamilton, a lot of people are saying, when he was on the podium first race, I said, well, lucky break, good car, blah, blah, blah. You've seen him for a whole season like the rest of the world. Real deal or flash in the pan?
Oh, the real deal.
Really?
Absolutely.
Raikkonen, a man of few words, and Michael Schumacher, a man of his own world. These people are not very willing to talk to the media like some other drivers. Do you think that hurts the image of Formula One or Formula One drivers?
Well, I think Formula One gets away with it being like that. It's quite interesting to contrast Formula One with, say, NASCAR or Indy, where the drivers mingle with the people and talk to them, and so they've got this huge fan base. Formula One seems not to have to do that, although perhaps it would help if they did. How much effect it has, I don't know, until they all change. And when the Formula One drivers become like NASCAR drivers and talk to everybody and the crowds quadruple, then we'll know that was the answer.
Season coming up in Australia soon. Your thoughts on the 2008 season? Who do you think will be the main top dogs?
It's always the same guys, really, isn't it? It's sort of 4 teams, although Red Bull, of course, with Adrian having gone there, they're coming into the equation now. McLaren will be there and Ferrari will be there, and the more people are able to do it, the longer you go on with a set formula, the more people learn to do it. It's like any act, it's there's a cross-pollination of ideas, and then drivers move and they know what you got to do, and then, of course, freezing the engines and things like that brings it all closer together. But in the end, the same old guys usually come out on top. So it'll be interesting to see whether Red Bull can maintain the momentum that they've shown in testing, going quicker than Renault with the same engine.
Among the drivers who have not won a race, and we have a lot of talent coming through the system, who do you see as future racing star in Formula One?
Kovalainen, definitely. I was very surprised that Renault dropped him. I thought, this guy's a superstar. What's going on here? Perhaps it was one of those things where Alonso didn't want a teammate round his neck, and you can understand that. That's been done before. Senna did that at Lotus, didn't he? And and I guess Schumacher had the Ferrari situation well under control. So, other than Kovalainen, I thought Webber was struggling a bit in his career. Maybe he's having a second wind. You could see him winning a race.
You mentioned that if you're a driver, you have to realize sooner or later somebody's going to come into your team and be quicker than you. What should a driver, especially who is already established, do in a situation like that? How do you play that mind game?
I don't know. I was never in that fortunate position, but I think you just got to believe in yourself, and if you start in anything, no matter what it is, if you start getting upset at somebody coming in, sort of giving you a bit of hassle, whatever game you're playing golf, your own performance is going to deteriorate. So put it out of your brain and get on and think, right, I've got to do a time, or I've got to hit my ball on the green or whatever, and just ignore the other guy.
Brendan Hartley is a young driver from your country, New Zealand, doing very well, and I've been following his career for a few years. Are you involved in his career or some other young New Zealand drivers?
No, I did. I was involved with the BRDC Young Driver Initiative funding program when it ran, but then it was stopped. They are starting something similar up again, I believe. I have met Brendan. I've been made aware of him by Murray Taylor, and I organised a BRDC luncheon in Hamilton a month or so, just before Christmas. Brendan and his girlfriend came along as two of the guests and got up and spoke, and interestingly, everybody else who got up and spoke, almost everyone, wished him the best. There's a lot of New Zealand following his career. Yeah,
I think he's a very good driver. What will it take to have a steady stream of American drivers in Formula One?
Yeah, Americans tend to like to stay home. Perhaps it's a bit like the World Series, that's only played in America, and there's a bit of that same mentality. We haven't seen any Americans, really. We had Scott Speed from the Red Bull thing, and prior to that, I guess it was Michael Andretti, and the last one who really made it, Mario, but then he was born in Europe, so he travelled more easily, I think. And then Revy. It appears to me the Americans don't like to go out of their own country. It's an alien culture, in a way, to go to Europe. And certainly it used to be. There were a few of them doing Formula 3 when I was doing it. But and actually the Kiwis are a little bit the same. They all seem to get homesick and want to go home before they'd cracked it. I thought you had to stay and battle it out. So that's what I have attributed to the lack of American Formula 1 drivers. And they can make a very nice living running at home, driving in NASCAR or IRL or Champ Car or whatever.
Red Bull program is now discontinued. Do you think it was the program had good intention, or was it handled properly?
Well, I'm sure with Helmut Marko running it, it was handled very well, and it did uncover some talent, didn't it? And so any program like that is good, because how else can a young guy get up there? I mean, the money that you have to find today is just ridiculous, really. And so many young guys are denied opportunities. So whether it's the BRDC or Red Bull or whoever it is, anything like that's got to be great for racing.
Anything else, any advice you would give to young guys who are trying to get into racing, who are already in junior level? Things have changed so much in the last 30 years. What advice or guidance will you give?
Never give up.
That's good. Okay, finally, how about a message for listeners of our podcast, please?
Well, thank you all for listening. I hope you've found what I have to say interesting. Motor racing has been very good to me. I've been involved in it for my whole life, since that day in January 1955 at Ardmore, and it's just a wonderful sport, and I suppose I'll be involved with it for the rest of my life. And you're obviously all enthusiasts as well, or you wouldn't be listening, so good luck to you all.
If I may ask, what kind of involvement do you have these days in motor racing, both here and overseas?
Well, my only real involvement now is just as being a vice president of the BRDC, and try to go to as many functions of theirs as I can. I was at the Savoy for the annual award ceremony, where Lewis Hamilton came and collected his prizes. And then I was at another BRDC lunch more recently, and and I follow it. I look on the websites every day. When I go on Atlas F1, the autosport.com website, as much as anything to look at the Judy Ganley thread on the Nostalgia Forum, but I also follow what's happening in Formula 1 and the gossip, and in the other areas as well, because I follow Andy Prio's career. Andy was one of the first young guys that we funded in the BRDC Young Driver Initiative, and I always like to follow Justin Wilson, because he was another one. So I'm not turning my back on it by any means.
No, we need more racing fans here. I know you never raced in Champ Cars. This unification thing, the split, how do you look at it?
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? I mean, there's a quite a lot of money in both, but not quite enough. And it's hard to see. You look at what IRL have achieved, and they've got Indianapolis, and it's a great show. And at the same time, you talk to Kevin Kalkoven, and he's done a terrific job with Champ Car, and I think he's got a great package, but somehow it won't work in isolation either, or won't work as well as it should. So. Yeah, I mean, it looked for a time as though the two of them might survive very nicely by themselves, but I suppose, with the world economy, it's becoming more and more difficult. So it'd be lovely to see a solution to the problem.
When you were racing, did you have any desire to be at Indy 500?
Yes, I went to Indianapolis. Ian Young had organised for me to go to first qualifying weekend in 1973. And I hadn't gone with the idea of doing anything particularly, but then I started meeting car owners and things, and then it looked as though the Belgian Grand Prix, which was being held at Zolder that year, was maybe going to be cancelled. So tentatively I was going to then attempt to qualify a car on second qualifying weekend. But then I got the call from Frank that the Grand Prix is on again, so I come home. So that was the end of that. However, Teddy Mayer did say to me, look, if you're going to do this, you need to be in one of Gurney's cars or one of ours. Don't go anywhere else, because you're likely to hurt yourself, and you won't look good. And so I did never pursue it after that.
One more question about a very quick Kiwi who unfortunately pretty much had the same fate as Chris Heyman, Mike Thackwell. Do you know him? What is he up to these days?
Well, I read about Mike occasionally on the Nostalgia Forum. Obviously, I know his sister. He's married to David Bram, Lisa. I know his father, knew him. Well, of course, I'd met Mike, when he was doing Formula Ford and stuff like that. And, there was a really talented guy, and he was, driving for Sauber in the sports cars, and just as Mercedes really stepped in, Mike stepped out, which is could have a very lucrative career, but he obviously done what he wants to do. Yeah, there was a wasted talent.
Thank you very much, sir.
Hi, everyone. This is David Malukas, driver for Dale Corn Racing with HMD Motorsports, and you are listening to F1 Weekly.
Welcome back to F1Weekly.com. Clark Rogers here, your host. And now, as we spin the globe and go around the world with Motorsports Mondial, with the king, the sultan himself, Nasir Hamid.
Thank you, sir. And today we shall start with some business news. HP and Ferrari singing the blues. Hewlett-Packard, started in a Palo Alto garage in California, is now a multi-billion-dollar technology company. And not far from Palo Alto is Redwood City and San Mateo, home base of Oracle and Visa. The blue HP logo will now appear on Ferrari in Formula One. Terms have not been disclosed, but talk on the track and the paddock is we are talking a mega deal like Oracle in the $100 million range on a multi-year deal. So this is very serious commitment from yet another big American company. So Formula One is doing very, very well in terms of commercial consideration, as they say on TV. So I'm very happy about this thing, and I just would like to see more involvement, and hopefully one of these companies one day will say, hey, we'll write you a check, but we need to put an American driver. Now, as long as that driver is based on performance, not on this DEI and PC nonsense, I'll be okay with that. Now, McLaren may master the moment. Monkey see, monkey do. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, or so they say. Visa is now title sponsor of what used to be Toro Rosso, which used to be Minardi. Deutschmarks or dollars, American Express will do nicely. That's what they are saying at F1 and F1 Academy after securing sponsorship pesos from the New York-based financial services company. And F1 Academy will also be racing at Miami, and we'll see what we can do in terms of reaching out and talking to people. Not to be left behind, according to news service GMM, McLaren may master the moment and secure money from MasterCard. Let's hope this time it's not a case of whatever Lola wants, Lola gets it. It's time for Golden Arches to march into the grid and bring fast food and freedom fries into the world of Formula One. And Sir McLaren is headed by Mr. Zach Brown, and he became the 800-pound gorilla of advertising and marketing. He brought a lot of big names into motor racing, including Johnny Walker and UPS and NASCAR racing. So he's doing a very good job. And recently IndyCar announced, before he could confirm this, that he's going to help them in marketing also, which is a very, very good idea by IndyCars. Okay, now we will look at racing from around the world. We shall start with Sweet Home, Alabama, where the sky is blue and Penske drivers rule. Indy cars were at the beautiful Barber Motorsports Park near Birmingham. Now these people refused more media credentials, but I still say this is one of the most beautiful tracks one can visit, and they also have a very impressive motorcycle museum, which alone is worth visiting. Man from New Zealand, Scott McLaughlin, was the winner, and his teammate from the Big Island, Australia, Will Power, was second. Third man on the podium was rookie Linus Lundqvist from Sweden, and another Swedish cat, Felix Rosenqvist, was fourth. Fifth was Alex Palou from Viva Spania. Sixth was Christian Lundgaard from Denmark. Top finishing American driver was Santino Ferrucci in seventh, and he is the Connecticut kid. He used to be in Formula 3 and Formula 2. There was an interesting situation during the race when a mannequin named Georgina fell from the bridge and landed on the side of the track. Man, I was watching this race, and first I thought somebody is trying to, go to heaven, and I was really concerned. But then turns out it's a mannequin. But poor lady lost her hand to one of the passing cars. Did you see any of this on the highlights of the news?
I did. I saw all of it, Nasir.
You are an amazing human being. In the championship, Michael Andretti driver Colton Herta leads with 101 points. 1 point behind in second is Will Power, and Palou is third on 98. And sir, I am debating, but I will definitely go to a few IndyCar races this year. I could not go to St. Petersburg, as I was out of the country. I understand the Laguna Seca race is now in June.
Something like that, Nasir.
Interesting. Okay, speaking of McLaren and Indy cars, David Malukas has been released by McLaren. He suffered a broken hand in preseason mountain bike accident and has been released by Sack & Company. This is a very good talent. We interviewed him a couple of years ago. His family owns HMD Trucking out of Chicago area and also an Indy Next team, and they field a lot of drivers in that series under the same banner, HMD Racing. And this, I'm very sorry to hear this, because this guy is very good talent. He gave a good run for the money to Kyle Kirkwood, who I think is one of the best American racing talents right now. And he was doing, he ran with Dale Coyne Racing previously, and this was a great opportunity for him, and this has been thrown by a needless accident, like sort of a Robert Kubica situation, but happily much, much less serious. Okay, now we go to the GP2 of IndyCars, Indy Next. Previously known as Indy Lights, they were also in action at Barber Motorsports Park. Josh Abel was the winner in the series for the first time, ahead of Nolan Siegel. They are joint leaders of the championship at this time with 95 points each. Josh is on the Lance Stroll program. His Papito owns the team, but he's a good talent, that's for sure. Drive of the race came from English chap Louis Foster, who started dead last in 21st and was 5th at the end. So that was a very good performance from him. Now we go across the ocean for round one of DTM, German touring cars, at Oschersleben. Oschersleben, sir, is in a part of Germany what used to be East Germany, and I've been to this track. A pretty nice place, very lush green, as you can imagine. There were two races. Jack Aitken from England in a Ferrari was the winner in race 1. Second race of the weekend was won by a local driver in a Lamborghini, Luca Engstler, and his Papito also races. Now we come to everybody's favorite racing series, Formula E. Cats prowling in the Principality. Monte Carlo was the stage for round 8 of Formula E. Two Kiwis riding Jaguars took first and second. Mitch Evans was the winner, followed by Nick Cassidy. Two drivers from DS Penske team finished third and fourth. Stoffel Van Dorn was third, and Jean-Eric One, also known as Jeff, was fourth. The team is run by Roger Penske's son, Jay. Pascal Wehrlein was fifth for Porsche and leads the championship with 102 points. Cassidy second with 95. Finally, MotoGP from Jerez de la Frontera. It was here in 1986. There was a big battle to the finish line between Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell in the Teo Pepe Gran Premio de España. Highly recommended last 6 laps on YouTube, if anybody interested. On Sunday, there was another big battle between local legend and hombre by the name of Marc Marquez. Tremendous racing between him and Italian Francesco Bagnaia. He is also known as Pecco. Record crowd was treated to a great race, even though Pecco won the race over Marc Marquez. Ducati took the top 5 spots, and this is sign of times. Best placed Japanese bike was Honda of Joan Mir in 12th. So very disappointing for them. So there you have it on the Motorsports Mondial. Anything else you would like to talk about, sir, about the Miami Grand Prix or any other situation?
Well, I don't want to get into the Situation Room. That's another show for another network, Nasir. But no, I'm looking forward to Miami. Like I said, the countdown begins. How quickly Logan Sargent will crash either FP1 or FP2. And of course, the frantic panic to find parts at your local Napa to put the car back together. But no, it's going to be fantastic. There'll be a freak rainstorm. Fernando will win fighting with Max. And yes, very exciting.
That's great. And that's great. Who do you think will be on the podium apart from Max? The Ferrari or McLaren drivers?
No, it's going to be Fernando. And yes, Roscoe should be a pretty good driver in the future. No, it's going to be somebody like, who knows, Lance Stroll.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Okay, I'm here in Barcelona with the man who is on pole position for the opening race of GP2, Mr. Pastor Maldonado from Venezuela. How are you today, sir?
I feel very good today. I feel very optimistic for the race. We worked it till the end of the night. The team is strong. The strategy will be very good, I think so. We will see. The most important thing is the start now. I was thinking about the start, and after that, I think it will be good for us.
For the championship, who do you think would be your main competitors all season long?
The season will be very difficult because it's very close. The level is very high this year. The most important things during the season is the constant, because in the second race we have to change the position, the first A position. So to be in this first A position is very important for us, and to start the season like that for us is fantastic. You know, we now have 2 points in the front for the pole position. We start for the first race in first position. You know, the team is very happy for the other driver too, because he is in third position. We are working in a very good direction now. The car is very fast, it's very good. We developed the car in the winter test as soon as possible, and now we have a good package for the season.
I see you're with PK Sports. As Senor Nelson PK here?
Yes, he's here, but it's in the Formula 1 paddock.
Okay. How is he as a team owner? He's, quite a character.
Yeah, no, but he's a very good person, a lot of experience. His son is now in Renault. He's doing very well. Now we are here. We must demonstrate, the power of the team.
Now, how popular is motor racing in Venezuela? You guys produced a great motorcycle racer, Johnny Chicotto, many years ago. How popular is motor racing in your country?
It's very popular. After baseball, the motorsport are the number 2 in Venezuela. We have the TV rights for the GP2, Formula 1, and some other categories. I think the people, the afición is very big in Venezuela, and I'm very happy for that, because it's one more support, for us driver.
And how is the support? I see you have this PDVSA sticker, your oil company. Is the government or Venezuelan companies behind Venezuelan drivers?
Yes. We have a program in Venezuela with the oil company. It's one of the most important companies in the world. We are 4 drivers in PDVSA racing team. It's very important for us, the support, because the motorsport is very expensive for us. and to have that sponsor is very important. We have just government sponsors as Ministry of Turismo, Ministry of the Sport, so many government sponsors. We have airline from Venezuela. I think that all the package for this year is very complete to win the championship.
And if you win the championship, do you expect a call from Senor Chavez?
Yeah, maybe yes.